The characters in today's episode seem awfully blasé about discovering alien life for the first time. Let's get to it, shall we?
Will you stop the clatter, you bubble-headed booby?
The Outer Limits.
In a space station outside of Earth's orbit, we meet Lieutenant Howard, played by Dabney Coleman. Since we're starting with him, I'm guessing he'll be the main character. Howard recently found spore-like creatures attached to the exterior hull and in the airlocks, and he's decided to study them. However, he clearly needs Lieutenant Ripley to remind him of the importance of quarantine protocols.
Wait a minute. If we let it in, the ship could be infected. You know the quarantine procedure.
One of the space fungi sprouts into a space flower that sprays its seed all over Howard before gassing him. Howard starts to react and convulse, and with his dying breaths, he blasts the blossoming chemical weapon out the airlock. After giving him the customary space funeral, the rest of the crew concludes that he must have died as a result of his experiments with cosmic rays, not because of the weird alien life form they just brought on board. As such, they bring yet another one inside and set it next to a tanning light, where it begins to grow. Later, it pops off at a rabbit, destroying all the hemoglobin in its body. The other men ignore the miracle of a bloodless bunny that is still breathing and carefully pack up their things to get in a shuttle and return home. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Colonel McWilliams and Major Jennings argue about the Colonel's decision to jettison Howard's body before it could be studied, before Mac tells a woman named Judith to talk to her husband, Captain Dowling, who is still on the space station, and convince him to get on the shuttle already. There's probably an easier way to explain that, but I'm feeling lazy. For totally not contrived plot reasons, the spore samples that Howard was studying can't be stored in the aft compartment of the shuttle, and are placed in the main compartment with the crew. As they approach Earth, a broken servo on the attitude stabilization control system causes the ship to malfunction, forcing Dowling to exit the shuttle to make repairs in what is honestly a pretty good effect shot for a 60s TV show. While he's out, the spores have escaped their containers, grown into flowers, and are filling the interior of the shuttle with their toxic flatulence. The 3 remaining crew members start to feel sick, so they tell Dowling to keep his suit on when he gets back inside. This is the one and only instance of somebody doing something intelligent in this entire episode. The crew quickly come to realize that it would be best to self-destruct to avoid contaminating the Earth with the alien plant things, and back on Earth, McWilliams and Jennings have another ethical debate about it before Judith uses airtight logic to convince the Colonel to risk the entire human race.
Colonel, there are 4 men on that craft.
The Colonel then orders the shuttle to come down at a base in Florida, but Captain Dowling crashes it a few miles away by a nondescript lake, which was a thoughtful way for him to save money on the show's budget. Judith,
Janet!
McWilliams, and Jennings arrive at the crash site with a handful of other nameless soldiers, only to discover that the hatch is jammed shut. The Colonel orders a red shirt to go pry it open, and that's when they notice the evil Pikmin suddenly popping up all around them. Predictably, when one of them blasts gas at the humans, the red shirt is the only one who forgot to put his plot shields at maximum, forcing McWilliams to take over. Judith is menaced by the space flowers before the Colonel finally succeeds in opening the hatch. He recovers the 3 surviving members of the crew and places them in an ambulance with the red shirt. He then sends the ambulance away and urges Judith to go with him so they can follow in his car. Unfortunately, the poisonous perennials have infiltrated the engine, and they have to try to escape on foot, even as the flowers continue spraying them with seeds and gas. They don't make it far before realizing they are totally trapped. But luckily, just as it starts to rain, they discover that the alien foliage is killed by water. Therefore, just like the aliens in War of the Worlds, the space flowers get Deus Ex Machina'd to death and everybody lives happily ever after. In terms of mood and atmosphere, this episode hits it out of the park. I'm sure the story isn't completely original, but it's one of the earliest examples of this kind of sci-fi horror template that I can think of, decades before Alien and that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds.
Life. Don't talk to me about life.
And unlike the last episode, I think the acting is excellent all around, really selling the horror of the situation. I also love how quickly the flowers propagate once they land on Earth, which is so genuinely terrifying, I convinced myself that this one was going to have an apocalyptic conclusion. All that said, oh boy does the hour-long runtime drag it down. This episode would have been great as a tight little half-hour show, but instead it has to rely on a lot of repetitive dialogue and sequences of suspense that are dragged out for far too long. I also have some logistical questions about the effectiveness of the alien gas, but maybe that only bothers me because the climax gives me a lot of time to think about it. Anyway, that's all I have on Specimen Unknown. Now, as always, do all those YouTubey things and check out my Patreon. And all that other good stuff. But until next time, this is the Unapologetic Geek, telling you to never be ashamed of what you love. As long as you're not hurting anybody.